Hey y'all, I'm Hope, and today's video is my quarterly book haul, so this is going to be all the books that I acquired from April to June. So to start, my TBR began at 332 books at the beginning of April, from the end of last quarter, and at the end of this quarter it is at 349 books. So it has risen again, and to be honest, I'm very bad at this, like, trying to read down my TBR thing, but I have actually significantly slowed my kind of bringing in of new books. Most of these were from April and like early May, so I think we're moving in the right direction now, but my TBR has risen again. So I have quite a few books to talk to you about today, so we're going to move through them pretty quickly, but I am very excited for all of these, and I actually have already read several, so that's very exciting. I think we're going to start with ebooks because I only acquired 2 of those this quarter. The first one was A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. I know almost nothing about this. I know it's high fantasy. I know it follows a woman who is an assassin and spy, and she's sent to like deal with an enemy assassin or spy, and that's pretty much everything I know. I haven't even really heard very many reviews of this book, but I've seen it at the store a few times, and I thought it looked like it was going to be fun, so I'm really curious to see what I end up thinking about this one since I know so little about it. The other ebook I bought, I have already read. This one is The Helios Syndrome by Vivian Shaw, which is an urban fantasy novella about a guy who is a necromancer, and he uses his abilities to help find planes that have crashed. So whenever they crash and then they're having trouble finding the black box or something, they bring him in because he's able to use his powers to locate that. And so he gets involved in an investigation where a plane has crashed in the ocean, and at the same time he seems to be being haunted by some sort of ghost or entity from my previous investigation. So there's kind of some overlap happening between these various crashes, and there's some really fun, like, eldritch stuff going on. So I really enjoyed this one. I think that the character dynamics in here are really fun and really snarky, so I really enjoyed this, and I am hoping that we might get more in this world. I would love to read more from these characters, but overall I just thought this was a great, just like quick and easy read. So those are all of the ebooks I bought. I only had the 2, and I think from there let's transition into other books I've read, since I have already read Helios Syndrome. I just have a little stack of these. First of all, I have The Poisoner's Handbook by Deborah Bloom. This is a nonfiction book about the beginning of the medical examiner's office in New York City, and efforts that were made there to find ways to identify poisons in the human body so that poisoners couldn't get away with it anymore. I think this is a brilliant nonfiction. I actually read this a couple of years ago, and I just really wanted my own copy, and my partner actually gifted this one to me, so thank you to Jacob. I'm hoping to reread this one at some point. I was really excited when this one turned up on my doorstep, because I think this is just one of my favorite nonfictions. I think it's really well written, and it reads, it's not dry, is I think the thing, is that it reads like a story. You're being told this story of the medical examiner's office, and I thought that the delivery of the information was really well done, and it was just a really enjoyable read, but also I learned so much about medical examiners and about how poisons are traced and just all kinds of things like that. Then I've got Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee, which is a novella following a young woman who wants to become a manticore hunter, and I just really enjoyed the kind of emotional journey that she gets to go on in this. I think this is a brilliant little novella. Then we have got Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 1. I think the subtitle for this one is Ryomen Sukuna, and I thought this was really fun. I didn't know what to expect from this series going in, but I've been really enjoying it. I'm currently on Volume 4, I believe, and it's a long-running series. I know it's really popular, and I think that it is just kind of a silly, fun, good time. And then the last one I've already read is Rose House by Arkady Martine, which is a mystery horror kind of a thing about a house that's an AI and a dead body that shows up in the house when nobody should have been able to get into the house at all. The next little stack I've got here is books that I bought for a specific class that I had signed up to take this fall that I've since dropped. Due to unforeseen circumstances, I've dropped that class because I instead am going to be taking on a teaching internship, which counts as like 3 credit hours, and so I needed to drop something so that I wouldn't not be exceeding the amount that I had like tuition remission for. So other than that, I still have this little stack here from this class. So I have a bunch of them that I don't know anything about. This is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, which I think is kind of 3 layers of storytelling. I'm not entirely clear on what's happening here, but I know there's like 3 levels of storytelling happening here with 3 different characters whose stories kind of get intertwined. So then after that, I got The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, and this is an author I've been wanting to try for a while. I've been hearing some really great things about his work. I was originally planning to read Harlem Shuffle first, but just got assigned for that class, and so I bought it, so I'll probably read this one first instead, but I think it sounds really interesting. It's, what if the Underground Railroad was a literal underground railroad? And that just sounds like a really interesting concept, so I'm curious to see what I end up thinking of this. Then I have The Water Knife by Paolo Bacigalupi, and this one is about kind of a dystopian version of the future where water is incredibly scarce. That's the word I'm looking for. And it's following a guy who is a water cutter who works for I think it's Southern Nevada Water Authority or something like that. And he gets sent to investigate when a rumor starts to emerge about a new water source in Phoenix. So he gets sent to investigate that, and it's a kind of dystopian thriller. So that sounds like fun. Then I've got Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I had never really wanted to read any of her work. It never really appealed to me, but you know, we're gonna give it a shot. And then the last one for that class is 1004 by Ben Lerner, and I really don't know how to describe this. This is, I think, another kind of future story, and this one is following a guy who's like just found out he's got some sort of terminal illness, and also he has a friend who's asking him to help her conceive a child. And then there's also some element of like he's a writer or a teacher or something. I really don't know much about this. I did not understand the premise when I read it, but it's short, so I'm still gonna give it a shot and see what I end up thinking of it, because it sounds like it could be very weird. Now the next little stack I have are books that I got when one of my professors retired. So one of my professors was retiring at the end of this past spring semester, and she had a bunch of books that she didn't want to have to move out of her office, because she had been working at the university there for many years and had acquired many books, didn't want to have to move them. So she was inviting some of her graduate students to come and like look through what she had and take some of the books with us. So these are all from that. And the first one is a bit of criticism. This is The Gothic Family Romance by Margot Gale Backus. Heterosexuality, child sacrifice in the Anglo-Irish colonial order. I don't have anything else to say about that. It just sounded interesting to me, and it mentions a couple of authors that she analyzes here are some of my favorite authors and ones that I'm also interested in reading from. So I thought that I would pick this up and maybe read some of those novels and then also read this alongside them. The rest of these are all novels, and this one is Howard's End by E.M. Forster. I love A Room with a View by the same author, and so I'm really curious to read some more of his work. So I think that's E.M. Forster, and the next one is also The Longest Journey. So these were two that I have not read yet from this author. I, at some point, would like to read Maurice as well, because I've heard really good things about that one. But I'm just excited to get to try some more of E.M. Forster's work. And then the last one here is a collection of Jane Austen's shorter works. So we have Lady Susan, The Watsons, and Sanditon. I hadn't read any of these previously, and first of all, I'm delighted at how tiny this little edition is, but I'm really interested to pick these up because I haven't read any of Jane Austen's shorter work, and I've really been enjoying her writing lately, so I'm excited to get to this one as well. The rest of these are mostly books I bought for myself. I think there's one or two that were gifted to me in here, but these are just like the other random things that I bought throughout this quarter. To start, I know this one was a gift. This one, I won a giveaway for the Roll of Reads readathon, which was hosted by a book fiend named Mel back in March, I believe. And when I won that giveaway, she sent me a random book off my wish list, and this was The Screaming Staircase. I forgot the title of it. It's right in front of me, and I forgot the title of it. Don't even worry about it. It's fine. This is the first book in the Lockwood & Co. series, which I believe is a middle grade or YA series about some kids who are paranormal investigators, and it just sounded like it was going to be a lot of fun. I did read the first couple of pages when I first got it, and I think that like the writing and the style was just going to be right up my alley. I'm very excited about this, and I've heard a lot of good things about this series, so I'm always looking for more like kind of urban fantasy, paranormal investigation-y kind of stuff, so I'm excited about this. Next up I have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I know a lot of people have been reading this one lately and loving it, and I just think that a pirate adventure sounds like a lot of fun, and I kind of want to be able to join in on some of the conversations for this one, so I'm hoping to read this one soon, but I picked this one up because it just sounded like it was going to be a good time, and upon reading like the first few pages, there's another one that I read the first few pages right after I got it, I immediately was liking the narrative voice that was happening here, so I'm pretty excited to get to this one as well. Then I've got Written in Bone by Sue Black, which is a book. It's a nonfiction, and Sue Black was I believe a forensic anthropologist. This is the second of her books. I can't remember what the first one is called. I know I looked at it though, but this is the second of her books, and it's like a journey through the human skeleton, and it involves a bunch of stories that she has of various investigations or various things that she was involved in that relate to like each part of the body and how the skeleton reveals things about the person. So I'm just really interested to see what she has to say. It sounds like it's going to be really fascinating. And I took a biological anthropology class several years ago, and the forensic anthropology section was really fascinating. So I'm really interested to hear more about that field from somebody who was in it. And we've got Lone Women by Victor LaValle, which I've just heard so many good things about. A few people I've seen who have read this one already have had like glowing reviews of it, so I'm excited to pick this one up. I previously have loved a horror novella, actually a horror novella and a graphic novel from this author, so I'm really interested to get into one of his like full-length works, and I think this one sounds like it's going to be really interesting. It's about a woman who has some sort of secret. She has a trunk that she carries with her everywhere she goes, and it's set in 1915 in like the western frontier in the US, and I think that just sounds fascinating and spooky. And I think it's a setting in a time period that I haven't really read about very much. So next I have two little horror novellas. I have The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw and The Scourge Between Stars by Ness Brown. Both of these are also ones I'm excited to get to. These are ones I have direct plans to read later this month. I'm going to be reading these for Summerween, and I am thrilled. I'm just very excited about all these books. I've just noticed I've said I'm so excited to read this about 5 times in a row. Anyway, planning to read these for Summerween. This one is about a plague doctor and a mermaid that go on an adventure together and end up in some sort of like creepy village with creepy children. And then this one was giving me kind of Alien vibes. It's about a woman who's the captain of a doomed space colony. They're trying to return to Earth with limited resources, and then they find out that there was something on the ship with them. Next up I have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which is one of my current reads. I'm about halfway through, I think. A little more than halfway through. Really enjoying this one so far. This is a very weird read, but this one is following a white author who steals the work of her Asian American friend after the friend dies. I think friend might also be a bit of a strong word for their relationship, but she steals this woman's work and publishes it as her own, and it's about like the fallout of that decision and everything that she does to try and like cover up her lies, which is just fascinating, and she's a terrible person, and I'm really enjoying reading this because it's like a train wreck that I can't look away from. Then we've got Witch King by Martha Wells, which I bought entirely because I liked Murderbot, and I've heard that this has kind of a similar tone to Murderbot, although I've heard this one is much more confusing and has like some weird naming stuff happening in it, so I'm curious to see how I feel about this one, but I know that I really like Martha Wells, the way that she writes characters and character voices, so I am curious to see what I think of this, especially after I've seen so many mixed reviews of it come out, even from people who really liked Murderbot. So then we've got a fantasy whodunit, The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Muller. And this just sounds like it's going to be really fascinating because it sounds a little bit weird. It's about a woman named Charm who is the madam of some sort of place called the Orchard House. Like, it sounds like it's some sort of brothel maybe. And there are trees made of bones and possibly people made from the tree's bones. Unclear. But Charm runs this house, and the women who are her charges in it are Shame, Justice, Desire, Pride, and Pain. And she is kind of controlled by the Emperor, but he brings her to his deathbed and tells her that she can have her freedom if she can figure out which one of his terrible sons murdered him. And then she has to decide what matters more to her, and it says the end of the summary, if she completes the final task, she'll be freed from a life of bondage and servitude, but she must choose what is more important, her freedom or the taste of revenge. And that just sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about this one. So next one we have is Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. This was another one that I saw a review for on TikTok. There's a creator who was talking about specifically books where houses are a metaphor for something, and this one has a house that is a metaphor for like fascism, which sounds really fascinating, and I've just heard some really good things about the writing in this one as well. This is a horror story about these 3 friends who went into a house some number of years ago. 2 of them came out, and now those 2 friends are trying to return to kind of reckon with what happened there, and I think try to save their friend who seems to be trapped in the house. Penultimate book is Ling Hun by Ai Zhang, which is one that I picked up completely on a whim because my local Barnes & Noble had a table that was just like haunted house books. And so, haunted house book. This one is about a family who go to this place called Home. It's a town, H-O-M-E, all caps, and people go there when they want to be haunted. And so it's about this family that goes there, and it seems that they're trying to get haunted by the ghost of their deceased son, which is interesting. And it looks like it's told from the perspective of the younger sister and also another woman who lives in the town. It looks like it's going to be a little bit weird. Like the one character is only referred to as Mrs. with no name. So I'm curious to see how I'm going to feel about this one, and it seems like it's going to be an interesting experience and definitely different from anything else I've read. And then the very last book I have here is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kalynn Bayron. I've been wanting to try something from this author for a while now. I've heard so many good things about this Poison Heart, but this one just really appeals to me because I love Friday the 13th-esque things, and that's basically what this sounds like. This is about Camp Mirror Lake and a full contact horror experience that's happening there. And the main character is the designated final girl for this experience, and then her coworkers start to go missing, and it seems like she might be a final girl for real. That just sounds like a ton of fun. I've been hearing some really good reviews of this one saying that it's actually very scary and that people felt like they couldn't read it at night. So I'm really intrigued to see what this is like, and I've just heard so many good things about this author, and I'm excited to give her work a shot, because if I like this one, I think I probably will go back and read this Poison Heart duology. So very excited to have this one also for Summerween. This is another one I'm planning to read like imminently. So yeah, that is basically all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If there are any books here that you're particularly excited about, let me know down in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you guys are going to be reading in July, or any of these that you particularly like. You know, whatever thoughts you have, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, so there is more content coming soon, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.